My general point of view is that we need to forget about the 4-year cycles. The structure of the market has changed fundamentally, and everybody has to understand that the game is completely different right now.
These were the words by Kris, the CEO of Crypto.com, and he mentioned this already in March of 2025. And looking at the charts right now, he does seem to be right. But what does this mean for your crypto bags? Will we see one more final rally later in the year? Well, guys, I would say let's strap in and let's find out. This video is sponsored by Wolfswap and the latest Season 16, where you can start trading and earning directly here on the platform. Early 2024, we created this chart to track the 4-year cycles because we see many repeating patterns. For example, we start the typical 4-year cycle here with the halving event, and only a few weeks later, we see the true liftoff here for a bull market for Bitcoin. And then about a year after the liftoff moment, we get to an all-time high. That occurred here in 2017, but again in 2021. So halving, a few weeks later, the start of the Bitcoin bull run, and about a year later, we do get the all-time high. But we also included here the start of the CRO bull run, because typically a lot later, we get alt season. But Bitcoin all-time high and CRO all-time high did occur very close together. So based on these previous cycles, we also made some prognosis about this cycle, 2024 to 2025. And so far it's been following spot on. So we had the halving. A few weeks later, we started with a parabolic move here. And then we are seeing also the start of CRO bull run 2 when it lifted off at about 7 cents. But where we are now, we typically should see a Bitcoin all-time high and also the CRO all-time high. So personally, guys, at this point, I expected the CRO price to be already a bit higher. So does that mean that the bull market is over? I don't believe so. If you take a look at multiple indicators, for example here, we have the bull market peak indicators where you can basically sell at the top. Currently, 0 out of 30 different Bitcoin peak indicators that have had, well, success in previous cycles have said, yes, we have hit a peak for the Bitcoin bull market. So far, it seems like we're only on 50% for these indicators. So I do not believe we have seen the bull peak yet for Bitcoin. And if we haven't seen a bull peak for Bitcoin yet, typically also we don't see a true peak for altcoins. So I do believe there is still hope for continuation in this cycle. Are we then talking about 5-year cycle or just a little bit of a lengthening cycle where we might see a bit of extension? Well, luckily, we do have some prognosis here by Kris.
My general point of view is that we need to forget about the 4-year cycles. The structure of the market has changed fundamentally, and everybody has to understand that the game is completely different right now. I think we may have a bit of choppy waters over the next couple of months, but the foundation that is being laid by this new administration for crypto and for business in general is one that is very strong and sustainable. So I think we're going to see another leg of this rally, and I'm very, very optimistic about the market towards the end of 2025 and going into 2026.
So Kris is aiming for a bull peak basically in Q4 of 2025 or Q1 of 2026. So not truly a 5-year cycle, but definitely a lengthening one. And personally, I also have two different scenarios where we might see the bull peak. But let's talk about those after the quick word of today's sponsor. Wolfswap is currently completely dressed up in the Halloween theme because they have some scary good contests. For example, now Season 16, the Basement Dream. You can help the intern escape the basement by earning points. And the more points you earn, also the higher you will end up on the leaderboard. Any top performing players will get some crazy good prizes. And you can participate really easily. Just press here on participate and you can start trading. Some tokens, like for example Moon, also do have a multiplier. So you can also earn more tokens. Start trading now on Wolfswap. Anyways, let's continue now with CRO because we're talking about potential peak periods for Cronos. And I got two scenarios, but this one would be the most bullish outcome. And here we're talking about the 2021 cycle overlay. And if anyone is wondering, why do I have this overlay here? It is truly a carbon copy of what happened back in 2021. You can see here from the low to the peak, that was what happened in 2021. And I personally do believe that this downward period here is pretty much similar. So therefore, we can bring back the overlay and you can see it is following the overall trend quite well. Of course, there are always deviations. We can expect those, guys. History tends to rhyme, not truly repeat. And then, if this is going to play out like in 2021, we can see the start of the parabolic phase to come quite soon. We're talking about the middle of November here. It's mentioning even like November 18th. And after that, only a month later, near the middle of December, we could expect a potential peak for the CRO token if we're going to see a repeat of 2021. And I would say, guys, that this middle of December period would still fit also the 4-year cycle. However, if we also include the lengthening cycle theory. And also, I would like to bring up the Bitcoin chart, because if you go back to the Bitcoin history, we can see that Bitcoin also had an all-time high in December in the past. You can see here in 2017, it peaked in December. And altcoins like Ethereum peaked just a few weeks later, just before Christmas. So this fractal would actually make a lot of sense, especially also if we do add the seasonality to it, because we have here a chart with all the years of existence of CRO, and you can see that typically in about the December period, November, December, CRO is performing the best out of the whole year. So I think it would make sense also based on seasonality. But we also have that different scenario, scenario 2, and that one we have to go for the rainbow chart, because I also do believe in the 4-wave cycle theory. And what are those 4 waves? Well, let me bring you up to speed here quickly. So here, we have seen wave 1, we have seen wave 2, wave 3, and finally, the 4th wave is the parabolic wave for Cronos. So where are we now? Well, you can say 1 wave, the 2nd wave, and finally now we do have the 3rd wave as well. So when can we expect the 4th wave to occur? Of course, nobody truly knows, but we can make an estimation based again on history. So what we had, if we take a look really from the peak of the 3rd cycle to the low, it took, give or take, how many weeks? About 10 weeks. Where are we now? Today, it's the 31st of October. So how many weeks have it been? About also 10 weeks. So maybe we can say this has been the low truly for the 3rd wave. So then from the low to the high, how many weeks did it take? Well, it took about 22 weeks. 22 weeks from the 3rd cycle low, 3rd wave low, to the peak. So from this point onwards, 22 more weeks. 22 more weeks. That will bring us to March of 2026. And March of 2026 is also an interesting period because Kris has also been talking about March.
I suggest you guys just look at the calendar today. We've got 25th of March. Set a reminder for 25th next year, and hold me to account if results are not delivered.
Fun and giggles aside, though, I truly do believe that both scenarios are very, very plausible. And yes, in the past, I've been very adamant about selling in Q4 of this year. And of course, in scenario 1, that might still be the case. However, if still we don't see any sign of a bull peak occurring for Bitcoin, I'm not planning on selling micro positions in Q4, especially if we might see that March outcome when the SEC is going to approve the treasury company, the ETFs, and finally see the government shutdown to end. I truly hope we're not going to have months and months of government shutdown, guys, but I think will be a big, big game changer. Let me know what you guys think. Are you planning still on selling in Q4, or do you have different ideas about a potential bull peak? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, don't forget to please hit that like button and also strap in for more videos like this one. And of course, guys, if you want to learn more, you can also check out the old AMAs with Kris, so you can watch the full clip there as well.